Africa in the 60s, 70s and 80s, and she was also speaking out against apartheid on the global stage. We've heard from the African Union today and even from the UN remembering her, and let's see how her legacy is starting to be looked at around the world. We start with Catherine Drew, who's in London for us. And Catherine, what sort of coverage has her death attracted over there?
Well, I think there's a great difference, actually, between the obituaries we're seeing here in Europe, in the UK, and perhaps America, which you'll hear later. We are hearing plenty of tributes, though. The Elders, the group of elder statesmen established by Nelson Mandela and currently chaired by Kofi Annan, has recently released a statement saying that she was the voice of defiance that refused to be silenced. Her courage and resilience inspired a generation in South Africa and around the world. Peter Hain, the former Labour minister, now a Lord, was a key figure in the global anti-apartheid campaign, which of course was headquartered here in London. He has been writing her obituary. He also tweeted last night that her critics should not forget that she was beaten up, banned, banished to remote Brandfort, harassed, imprisoned. He wrote, "Remember that," when correctly criticising her rogue later life. And of course, people have been talking about the Winnie Madikizela, Mandela, that perhaps was caricatured on the global stage. In the Daily Telegraph, they said that she switched roles with breathtaking panache from the heroine of the revolution to the comic queen of low farce. So some words not so kind. But I had a very interesting conversation today with Pascale Lamshay. Now, she is the award-winning director of a new documentary simply entitled Winnie, which won a major award at the Sundance Film Festival last year. And you will be able to see my interview with her a little later, but she was talking about how this campaign against Winnie had been started by the apartheid state and really had taken hold in large parts of Europe, in America, where people had taken her actions out of historical context, out of context of the time, and that she was painted as this sinner in response to the Nelson Mandela, who was seen as the saint. So Pascale Lamshay saying that she had not been given a fair hearing either by the ANC, who failed to support her at times when she was the lone voice, but also outside, of course, by the wider world. So some very interesting perceptions coming here from London.
So like you say, it's mixed. Many saying, put it in context. The Guardian was critical. It was saying that she was destined for greatness and she basically missed her calling. However, I think there was more nuance in the piece. Do you think that from a distance, people looking back on her legacy from other parts of the world may be a bit more confident about looking at the good and the darker aspects of her legacy?
Yes, I think that's very much so. The Financial Times called her a fallen angel. Obviously, they actually went on to put her life a little bit more in context. The Financial Times says, while his 27 years in prison shielded Mandela from the daily realities of fighting a racist white regime, she was thrust pell-mell into the ugly, violent and dark vortexes of the struggle against oppression. But I think very much people looking on from the UK and perhaps parts of Europe are seeing a much more nuanced picture and perhaps are seeing these negative influences, articles that have long been discussed around the figure of Winnie Mandela.
Are they talking finally about her role in rallying the global community that was instrumental in changing views of South Africa?
Yes, some are. In fact, I've just been looking on a Facebook group of South Africans in the UK, and again, a very mixed from the expat community. Some paying tribute to her, some saying that she's not this figure that should be heralded as the mother of the nation. But I have to say, many people on her death, reflecting and perhaps making second thoughts about the context of the times. Very easy decades later for people to look back at her actions and perhaps draw their own conclusions, perhaps draw the wrong conclusions. Very interesting, this documentary, which I know has been screened in South Africa and is due to be screened on television. And Pascal Lamshay, the director of that, saying that in 90 minutes she was trying to turn back decades of propaganda to really put those actions in context. So I think people will find that very interesting, and obviously a lot more of interest in that documentary worldwide now.
All right, thank you very much, Catherine Drew, reporting live for us from London.